I think you're muted.
Yeah. Well, our mission for this is to give resources to Premed, and with us we are providing blog posts which will give insight to medical school and COVID-19 awareness. We create interactions to form, and we're planning to give volunteering and shouting opportunities to people.
So we created a TikTok.
Aw, that was so cute, guys.
Yeah, that's like the TikTok that we prepared for y'all.
Yeah, you guys should follow us on TikTok.
Thank you. So my name is Suhas Babu. I'm one of the founders of the Premed team. I'm currently a sophomore at Texas A&M. I'm majoring in biology, and I'm also double minoring in business and public health. I'm super interested in cardiology, but I'm also interested in the business side of medicine. I love martial arts. I've done martial arts for over 13 years in Taekwondo, and it's something I really enjoy. And I'm from Houston, Texas.
Hi, I'm Sneha. I'm another founder, and I also go to Texas A&M. And I'm a sophomore studying BIMS and public health. And I'm interested in doing an MD and PH in the future. I'd like to become an internal medicine physician, and I'm also from Houston, Texas.
Hi, my name is Sai. I go to Mentee Positions, which is all the way back in India, and I'm an incoming freshman pursuing a chemical engineering, and I'm planning to pursue neurosurgery.
Hi everybody, my name is Dia and I'm one of the team leaders for the pre-med scene. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm currently a freshman at the University of Houston Honors College pursuing a major in biochemistry and a minor in medicine and society. My hobbies are reading, cooking, and volunteering. And I'm really happy that you guys are all here tonight. We've been working really hard to promote our organization, and it means a lot to us that you're here today. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Zainab, and I'm also one of the team leaders here along with Dia. I'm from Alberta, Canada, and I'm currently a senior. But for my university degree, I'd like to pursue something in neuroscience, and one of my passions is public speaking. And now I'll pass it off to Ruhi.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruhi. I'm the influencer of the pre-med scene. I'm a first year at The Ohio State University. I'm majoring in neuroscience and minoring in global public health, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I hope to pursue something in pediatrics in the future.
Hey guys, my name is Tarun, and I am the project coordinator for the Premed scene. I am a sophomore at Rutgers University, majoring in finance and minoring in biological sciences, and I'm also on the Premed track. And thank you guys for coming on to the event today, and I hope you enjoy it.
So we couldn't have one of our blog writers here today. Her name is Rachel. So she has created an introductory video of herself that we will be showing now.
I am a blog writer for the pre-med scene. I'm really sorry that I couldn't make it to today's meeting. I really wish I could have been there. But I'm just going to introduce myself through this video so that you have an idea of who I am. So, like I said, my name is Rachel. I am a rising third year at Massachusetts College of Pharmacy. It's a really small school in Boston, but I'm actually in their pre-med program. So in about a year from now, I will be heading off to med school. Another fact about me is that I am from a suburban town in New Jersey. So we say tailored ham instead of pork rolls. And I enjoy boba, I enjoy reading, and I'm really excited to be a blog writer for the pre-med scene. So I hope you guys enjoy this first general meeting, and I hope I can hang out and meet you guys soon.
So Rachel posted her first blog today on our website. Her topic was choosing the right career path, deciding between MD versus DO. So you can check out her blog and all of our future blogs on our website, which is thepremedscene.com. And all of our blogs will be posted every Sunday on our website. And it's a really nice way for you all to get insight into medical school. We'll be talking about common misconceptions and COVID-19 awareness and much, much more. So we hope that you enjoy that.
Hey everyone, my name is Shivani Akula. I'm a junior at University of the Incarnate Word in San Antonio. It's one of the biggest private universities, so I'm really excited to go there. And I'm a major in biochemistry and a minor in psychology, and I'm from New Braunfels, Texas. And I'm very excited to be a blog writer with the pre-med scene.
Hi everyone, my name is Joy. I'm from Texas A&M University. I
Hello?
am currently a junior.
OK，又来了。
And my major is in biomedical science with a minor in neuroscience, and I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm really excited to be a blog writer here for the pre-med scene.
Junior at the University of Texas at Dallas. I am majoring in psychology, and I am one of the forum moderators for the pre-med scene. If you ever need any advice or just have any questions regarding your pre-med track to medical school, you can always comment and start a discussion on the forum, and I can respond over there. I am looking forward to getting to know you all.
All right, so Aliyah isn't here, so I'll be introducing her today. So Aliyah is a junior majoring in health sciences with a preclinical track at the University of Central Florida. She grew up in New York, but has been living in Florida for about 6 years now. And she's currently a teacher assistant for biology at her university, a senator, and an undergraduate researcher.
Hi guys, I'm Kasya Popula and I'm a media relations. I'm a senior in high school and I go to a high school in Minnesota in a city called Eden Prairie, which is a suburb of Minneapolis. My dream school is UC Berkeley and I would like to go major in science and eventually go to med school. I love hanging out with friends, playing games, and I also play tennis.
Hi everyone, my name is Jade and I'm one of the promoters in charge of media relations. I am a high school junior from Canton, Michigan, and I have an interest in nutritional sciences and allergies.
All right, so how to become a member of the pre-med scene? Well, first comes first, go to our website, which is thepremedscene.com, click join us to subscribe to our mailing list, and there you'll be sent emails about all of our new blogs, which come out every Sunday, forum discussions, and event registration links. And of course, also follow us on our social media. Our Instagram handle is @thepremedscene, and the link tree has a bunch of links to our GroupMe and more, which is also in our Instagram bio.
So we have a couple of upcoming events. To start off, Dee already mentioned that there's going to be weekly blog articles. They're posted every Sunday on our website. It's just www.thepremedscene.com. So make sure to subscribe to that. Additionally, we have monthly workshops for the MCAT that are every month around like the last week. So our upcoming one is on September 30th. You can use our link tree to register for that as well. Our monthly guest speaker next month is going to be Dr. Webb, who is a spine surgeon. So he'll be speaking on October 6th in the evening. Finally, we have some mentoring opportunities that are going to be happening soon. So first, we'll have some general mentoring, which will be from medical students and other physicians. And there will be applications for mentors and mentees coming out. Additionally, we'll have some individual mentoring. So that will be one-on-one with Dr. Janacek. So that'll be coming out soon as well.
So here at the Premed Scene, we also offer internship opportunities. For all of the positions that you just heard about, applications will be open next semester. So we have currently 2 team leaders, 4 blog writers, 2 platform promoters, 1 media relations influencer, 1 project coordinator, and 2 forum moderators. This is subject to change. We could come out with more opportunities or make it more limited, but we will definitely have some opportunities available next semester, and we'll be sending out that information when the time comes.
Hey guys, welcome. My name is David Janacek, and I'm currently an anesthesia resident in my 4th year in Chicago. I'm originally from Iowa. I did my medical school training over in Iowa, and also my undergrad years were there as well at the University of Iowa, where I studied physiology. And so I am also going to be the advisor for the Premed Scene. I'm really excited about this opportunity to help all you guys out. I've started a company to kind of help pre-meds and med students back in 2018 called Get Admitted MD. This was based on my experience as a admissions committee member during my medical school years, where I was reviewing applications, voting on applications, and that really taught me how I could, really spot a good application from a bad one. And so I've used that experience to help pre-meds since then. So like mentioned before, the individual mentoring opportunities are going to start soon. So at the beginning, it's going to be a select group of maybe 5 to 10 students that I'll be mentoring. And then I'm hoping to expand that as time goes on. But we'll start with 5 to 10 and kind of see how things go. The one-on-one mentoring will be everything from, picking classes, and what you should be doing to prepare your application to if you're actually applying, I can read your application, your personal statement, go through everything with you and make sure you're on the right track for those as well. I'll also be giving some guest lectures on anesthesia, since that's my focus specialty. So I hope you guys kind of get a glimpse of that world too, and maybe I can convince some of you to go into anesthesia if you feel that that's the right specialty for you. But I just want to thank everyone for joining tonight, and I hope to work with as many of you as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Janacek, for speaking on the team. And thank you all for showing up. So you see our contact information. We have a group me where we post daily MCAT questions and such. And we have a social media platform here listed. So now we're going to open up a Q&A for y'all, if anyone has any questions.
So feel free to ask any questions that you have about how our organization works, if you still need clarification on how to become a member, if you want more information about the internship opportunities, you can ask anything. And you can also ask questions to Dr. Janacek since he's here about the mentorship program that he'll be having.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So I'm currently a junior at UNT in Texas, and I'm hoping to graduate this fall. I'm trying to finish early. And I'm caught between a couple of mentors and a few doctors that I'm shadowing at the moment, and I don't really get a chance to ask them questions. but everyone's telling me that I should take a gap year or I should just take some time before I actually apply to medical school. Do you guys think that that's a good thing to do, or should I just start medical school next year?
So it's a tough question to answer, and without knowing everything, I think that you kind of have to look at your situation, and there is kind of a mental component to going to medical school. It's not easy, and so if you feel that you're mentally ready for that, then definitely you could go ahead. The gap, I took a gap year between my undergraduate years and going to medical school, and it was one of the best years I had. It's kind of a step back, and especially if you're trying to finish everything in 3 years, that's a tough road. And so just having a mental year to relax and kind of maybe do some research on the side, those sorts of things can really help, and maybe prevent some burnout later on, because medical school is not like I said, not easy. And it can be kind of a tough road.
Thank you so much for answering that. Yeah, I can definitely say it hasn't been easy, but people are always like, well, it's just going to get harder from here. But then again, knowing how I am and how I've been pushing myself all this time, like at some point you kind of forget about the struggles that you go through. You're like, oh, I'm ready for it, but I honestly don't know what path to take.
So the other thing I will mention is that a lot of medical schools will offer, you can apply and you can get accepted, and then you can defer for a year. So you still keep your spot in the next year's class. And so it's kind of a way, I know a friend who did this, where he got into medical school, and a very good medical school that is. And he decided that he wanted to take a year before he actually started. So what they did is they kept his spot and just transferred him to the next year. And so that opened up a whole year for him to do. He actually did like a religious mission type trip in the interim. And so that is a possibility as well. And so if you really do want to, apply and, kind of gain that spot. Now, it's not guaranteed. It's up to every single medical school, like whether or not they grant you that. But it is an option out there. And so, that's something you can keep in the back of your head if you do want to apply this year. And, the other thing is that medical schools are really good about having support groups, and, once you do get in, they're usually amazing at working with you to make sure that you're, doing okay. And if you do face anything like burnout or, you feel too stressed, they can adjust things. So that's one thing I didn't know until I actually went through medical school was, the resources they provide, and, whether that's other med students that they pair you up with and have you, kind of meet with them, and whether it's, more like a tutoring situation, or if it's, just talking to someone. But most medical schools also provide, trained personnel for that kind of thing. So, it's not, you're not alone. There's plenty of us that have gone through it, and, it's completely normal. So, if you do want to go straight through that, there are options. You're not just locked into one thing.
Right. It's just so hard to understand what your choices are, because there's not a lot of people that you can talk to, or opportunities to get insight from people who have actually experienced it. You just get people that think they know and then give you answers based on that. Exactly. But I think the gap year is probably pretty good, to also do shadowing, volunteer work, make sure that your application looks spot on, right?
Yeah, it definitely offers you another year to do those things. And so, it's not a bad thing. I think a gap year has this connotation that it's always been this negative thing. But, I would say it's actually a positive in most situations. And so, it's great if you can go straight through and, just go undergrad, med school, residency, and be done. But, that's not very common.
It's not that realistic.
Yeah. And, when you get into residency and you talk to your fellow residents, what paths have they taken? You'd be surprised how many, worked other careers before they went to medicine, and how many, took a gap year. And when I was a pre-med applying to med school, I was like, thinking that everyone just went straight through. And if I didn't, I was a failure. And that's not
right. Exactly.
The number of, people that come back to medicine after another career, or, have to take a gap year or choose to take a gap year, it's really impressive how many people actually do. So.
Thank you so much. That does relieve a lot of stress on my questions. That's awesome.
No problem.
Hello, Dr.
So
Jeff.
I would just like to address a question that we got in the chat. So this organization isn't only for pre-meds, because we offer volunteering opportunities for everyone, and that can be used for leadership and service regardless of your pathway. But I will say that our blogs and our forum will be more focused on medical school admissions process and things like that. So just wanted to address that. And Dr. Janiczek, are you able to see the questions in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going through them right now.
Perfect. All right.
So I think the next one that I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, is what do you recommend for an international student to get accepted into medical school? So it's not impossible. I think it's very dependent upon where you're at the moment. If you're doing if you're an international student doing your undergraduate in America, it's, I think it's relatively the same. You have to look at, obviously your visa status and anything that may prohibit you. I think it actually is harder during the residency process because they look at what visa status you have and they may or may not support that. So you kind of have to look at each residency differently. But I think for medical school, it is considered. Some medical schools do accept and some don't accept international students. And so there's a publication put out by the AAMC or the the Association of American Medical Colleges. And they list in there which schools accept international students and which don't. And so, obviously do your best and, go kind of look through that. And I can, if you're interested, I can, kind of look through it. If you don't have access to that document, I can look through that and get you a list of all the schools that do accept international medical students. And we can put that on the blog or the website, whatever you guys would like to do. And then we can, at least you kind of know which schools to apply to. It will be limited because like I said, not every school accepts them, but for the ones that do, I would focus on those, definitely those schools. So the next question I see is it possible to get into medical school without doing research during undergrad? Definitely. I reviewed many applications and successful applications that didn't do research. Some medical schools are much more research heavy, like they want you to do research. Those are typically, maybe the top tier medical schools, Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins, they're a little bit more research focused. But there's a lot of medical schools that, don't require it. And it's something that, can help your application, but it's not, by no means not anything that's necessary. And especially with, kind of the COVID era, if you're applying in the next year or two, research opportunities for pre-meds may be on the kind of the low side just because of everything that's going on. So, it's something that enhances your application. And I think it helps in terms of making you think a little bit outside the box for the future. Because when you're a resident and a attending physician, you're gonna have to think outside the box and, even as a med student. And so it teaches you those skills, but in terms of having to do research, unless, you want to go to a specific school that requires it, no, you don't have to do research.
Jay, going off the other question, just to specify more, is how do you suggest someone to improve their application to put them against people that do research, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so it's, if the two applicants have the same scores and the same GPAs and one does research and one doesn't, it's really going to come down to that school and what they desire. Like I said, some schools don't really care if you do research and some do. And so I think of research as something that, maybe if your GPA is a little bit lower than the average for that school, then maybe having research background might bump you up a little bit, just with any other extracurricular. So if you have great scores and great, GPAs, then, all the other stuff can go a little bit lower on the application. It's, it really helps if you have, it really helps if you have maybe a slightly lower GPA or a slightly lower MCAT score than the average for that school. And that's when, research might become, a little bit more important, as well as, mentoring and leadership activities and everything else. So when I was reviewing around the committee, if I saw, 2 applicants, one had research and they had a little bit slightly lower GPA, you can maybe assume they were busy doing research, and, it kind of all weighs in together. And, unfortunately, there's no clear-cut answer for every single situation. It's kind of a case-by-case basis and a school-by-school basis as well.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So the next question I see is related to COVID and shadowing and volunteering opportunities, and how do you make your applications competitive? So for the next year or two, I believe the application is going to allow a space for you to write in a statement on how did COVID affect your application. And so this has come out from the AAMC based on the COVID pandemic, and they know that your opportunities are limited, and it's not as easy as it once was to get shadowing and volunteering opportunities in the hospital. And so besides that, there's a lot of great virtual opportunities now. So virtual shadowing and virtual volunteering opportunities have popped up. And that's also something we can post about if anyone is interested. But I think showing just any effort into those sorts of things will, reflect positively on your application. And so you can kind of do both, try to work on those virtual opportunities, but then also fill out that statement that says, this is how it was affected. Because I know a lot of students, may have had a research project lined up, may have had a shadowing opportunity lined up, but then because of COVID, they were forced to not participate in those, which isn't their fault. And it's important to, kind of state those things on your application. And so it's going to be a little bit weird for the next 2 years, I imagine, and possibly longer if, depending how the pandemic goes. But medical schools definitely understand that, and they're not, they know that it's not as easy as it once was. So, I would seek out those virtual opportunities, and then also, kind of prepare that statement in terms of, this is how COVID affected my, my opportunities. The next question I see is, it's regarding finishing early, graduating early, or doing the whole med school track faster than the normal length. So honestly, I don't think it's any benefit outside of financial. So if you think about it, if you take, a year off or so, the only really thing that will be maybe a little bit different is in the long run, you're going to have one less year of an attending salary. So honestly, at that point you'd be, making, a couple $100,000 a year. And so if you delay that process, you might miss a year or two of attending salary. But graduating early just to kind of quicken the process probably isn't worth it. I think there's a natural maturation that goes on, doing 4 years of medical, or 4 years of pre-med and then going on to medical school, and, plus or minus a gap year. And so I think, honestly, taking the time and not necessarily speeding through things is probably, a benefit actually. And so if there's extenuating circumstances in your personal situation, then that might change things. But overall, I don't think there's a significant benefit to speeding through. All right, so what do you recommend for someone who doesn't have a lot of shadowing or doesn't know anyone who can write a letter of recommendation because of COVID? So this one's a tough one. So the shadowing hours, honestly, you can apply to medical school without much shadowing hours. I know everyone says 150, especially because of COVID, it's going to be less than that for most students. And so medical schools understand that. The issue with not having a letter of recommendation might be a little bit tougher. And so I would, think about who you know best. And that comes down to anytime you're thinking about letters of recommendation, I would just think about who knows you the best, and try to ask those individuals. And so one thing you can go back through and see if you went to anyone's office hours, any professor's office hours more than normal, they may know you a little bit better. Any research supervisors, if you have those, basically any supervisors, volunteering, shadowing, anything like that would be okay. Even if you don't have a lot of shadowing hours, if you have some, you can ask that individual, the physician you shadowed, for a letter. And I like to always ask, or have, I advise students to ask, your letter writers, can you write me a good letter, instead of just, can you write me a letter, and so I think that's really important, because, anyone can write a letter, but to write a good letter is kind of the difference. And so if that's, if that's a professor you've had, if that's, a supervisor of some sort, whoever you think knows you the best, I think is the best recommendation I have. So, all right. How did you figure you wanted to specialize? Yeah, so this is an easy one. So I actually knew pretty early on. I knew before I went to medical school that I wanted to do anesthesia. I was an anesthesia tech as an undergrad. And so it was kind of a job where I turned over operating rooms in between cases. I was a part-time person, so I worked maybe 20 hours a week. But what it did was it allowed me to get in a hospital, see how the operating room worked, and also meet anesthesia residents at the university I was at, as well as anesthesia attendings. And so they kind of, talked to me about anesthesia, and they really kind of showed me, they would take me in the operating room and show me cool things. So it kind of just, blew my mind that they would do that for, a pre-med who just says he's interested in anesthesia and hasn't even gotten into medical school yet. And so that also showed me kind of the personality of anesthesia and anesthesiologists. And one thing you guys will learn in medical school is you kind of just jive with certain people and you don't with others. So, anesthesiologists tend to have a certain personality, and they tend to be, kind of type B people. They're, fairly laid back until, stressful stuff starts happening, and then they turn into a type A person. So, yeah. So for all you type B'ers out there, it's okay. It's one of those fields that most of the time everything is very stress-free. It's it's kind of smooth sailing, if you will. It's just the 5% or 3% of the time that it's very stressful, and you have to act quickly. You have to think ahead of the situation. And then the other thing that really interested me was that I could learn a little bit about almost every single specialty in the operating room. So, on Monday I could be working with ortho surgeons. On Tuesday I could be working with cardiac surgeons. Wednesday I could be working with general surgeons. So you kind of have to know a little bit about everything. And so you can't just, become tunnel vision completely. And so I kind of like that aspect of, I didn't feel like I was specializing too much in terms of, losing other skills and, not knowing what was going on in other fields. And so I was able to, I'm able to interact with all those different type of people. But it's also nice because if I don't like working with a certain type of people, maybe I work with them 1 day a week or 2 days a week, that's fine. But it's not like my specialty directly. So, so yeah, I think that's pretty much, the other thing was I love physiology. And so I studied physiology in undergrad. And I just, there's no better physiology than anesthesia. So, the best example I have is if the patient has low blood pressure in the operating room, you treat it yourself, you give the patient the medicine, and, you can see the response almost immediately. And so maybe I'm impatient, maybe, I don't want to wait around, but, it's kind of satisfying knowing that you can just directly treat them and you don't have to send them home with a pill and tell them to come back in 3 months. And so, that's something that definitely drew me in terms of, I didn't have to deal with that kind of waiting around. It's pretty immediate when you make an intervention in the operating room, you can see it right away, which is really cool. So.
Hey, Doc, can I have a question?
Sure.
All right, so I thought that was really cool because I know this is sound crazy, but I'm really interested in anesthesia. So the fact that you're even on here is absolutely incredible to me. But I have asked around, and right now I'm a pharmacy technician because I've actually always been interested in drugs, but I didn't want to go the pharmacy path. But everything you're saying right now, I'm just sitting here like, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
How did you become an anesthesia tech?
So it was actually luck of the draw to a certain degree. So when I went to, what year of school are you?
I'm currently a junior in my undergrad.
Okay. So you still have some time. And so basically, so I went to the University of Iowa for my undergrad. And so they have a big university hospital and everything. And they had a job posting online on one of the university websites about, an anesthesia tech. And luckily they hired undergrads to fill these part-time positions. And so honestly, I just applied and luckily they hired me. But I honestly, if you're interested that much, I would try to reach out if you have. Is there like a big university in your area or anything?
Like what do you mean university? Just any general university?
In terms of like a big university hospital that might have, like a robust anesthesia department, anything like that?
Unfortunately, in my part of Texas, there's really not a lot around me, but I can still try to reach out to see if I can find somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, any hospital that does surgery pretty much has anesthesia techs. And so these individuals are great, assets to the team. They, help turn over ORs. They, help get supplies and everything.
Right.
And so it's something that I learned so much from, and it opened so many doors down the line. It also, if you're interested in anesthesia, you put that on your application for residency, and it shows that you've been thinking about this for years and years and years, instead of you just switched into it because it was the cool thing.
Right.
Which we do get applications to residency where they switched 2 minutes before the application was due, and you kind of wonder like what happened. Oh yeah. It's pretty clear when you review for the residency applications, who's actually been wanting this for a while versus who just kind of thought it was cool. Yeah. And so honestly, I would just try to contact whatever local hospital you have, and see if there's any, maybe look on see if they have any job boards online, to be honest. And see if there's any way you could, possibly get a part-time position with them, and kind of go from there.
Okay, because I'm currently going through my training process. I have like 10 days left as a scribe. So I'm hoping that might open up some doors, but I've been interested in anesthesia for so long now, and I can't find anywhere that has job postings for an anesthesia tech.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, that's okay. I haven't quit trying because this is really just what I want to do. Like, it hasn't changed for the longest time. People are like, go do this with your type of personality. I'm like, I don't care what you say. This is what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's that kind of desire that, will show through. And, I think it's important for, people that go into anesthesia to be kind of passionate about it. And so let me think about that a little bit more, about other ways that we can kind of get you in there. And then we can hopefully figure something out.
Thank you so much. I mean, I don't want to put anyone through the trouble. I was just kind of curious through the process.
No, I mean, this is what this is all about. We want to get you opportunities, and we want to help you guys, because it's a tough process. And standing on the other side, I can't even imagine going through it right now. You guys have way more to deal with than I did at the time. So honestly, it's commendable, and I'll try to help you as much as I can.
Thank you so much.
Thousands of miles away, but whatever I can do, I'll try to help. So let me think about that a little bit more, and then maybe there's other avenues that we can go down as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get you into the anesthesia world. And then, okay, so the next question I see is MD versus DO. And so honestly, it's not, the difference is shrinking by the minute. And so when I applied, there was still a little bit of a difference. But nowadays, really, I would say there's really no difference. The DO route is a little bit harder just because if you want to go to some residencies, you'll have to take multiple tests. So basically the MD route to get licensed is you have to take what's called the USMLE exam. So there's 3 steps, step 1, step 2, and step 3. And then the DO system has their own set of those 3 exams or 2 exams. So it's called the COMLEX 1 and COMLEX 2. Honestly, it's just acronyms for the exams. But if you go to a DO school and you want to go to certain residencies, you'll have to take both sets of exams. So it's just more work versus the MD route. You only have to take the USMLEs. You never have to take the COMLEX exams. Now, I say those because it is, in the works that they're going to get rid of the 2 different exam systems and just go to 1 straight exam system. That's not finalized yet, but that's probably going to happen in the next couple of years, I imagine. And so you may not have to take the double exams if you go to a DO route. The other thing about a DO is that you learn an extra set of skills called OMM, or osteopathic manual manipulation. It borders on chiropractic in terms of what it does. If you talk to a lot of DOs, I would say more than half of them say they don't use it past school. And so you learn all these techniques, and then, essentially you kind of just use them on your friends, your family. Maybe if they have a back problem, or they slept wrong and they have something, in their neck, you can kind of help them, on the side. But in terms of their practice, they don't really use them in terms of their practice. The other thing I will say is if you're interested, I think you're the same question that you're the same individual that asked about anesthesia, right?
Yes, okay. I am.
Okay, so the other thing is anesthesia is extremely DO friendly. A lot of my co-residents right now are DOs, and so there's really no difference there. They're treated the same way. Once you get to residency, really they're treated the same way. There's really no difference. And so it's kind of if you want this extra set of skills, if you want to, or you don't mind jumping through the extra set of hoops. The other thing I will mention is that sometimes DO schools have the impression that they might be a little easier to get into. And so they're a little less forgiving about grades and, MCAT scores and all that. They look at applications on a holistic model. And so they try to really figure out who you are as a person. And so, they can, kind of forgive maybe an MCAT score that's not as high, or a GPA that's not as high as, MD schools. And so maybe.
I've heard, and that's like all fine, right? And I'm so sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
And I've heard that's all fine, but however, with the few people that I've talked to and a couple of medical assistants that I've talked to based on the doctors that they are around, they're like, really, essentially, there's no big difference between DO and MD. However, once you get into residency, depending on what you want to specialize in, sometimes it does matter because they could be a bit picky about it. So that's why I've always been like, well, I'll just take the MD route because it's just easier. I'll just take step 1, step 2, and it's like done and done,
Exactly. And, I would say there are definitely some specialties that are less DO friendly. So they're typically the more competitive ones. So dermatology, orthopedic surgery, ophthalmology, neurosurgery. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. There are a lot of DO friendly specialties. So anesthesia is probably up at the top or near the top of that list. And so if you're interested in that, you'll have, no problem getting a spot. Family medicine, internal medicine, those sorts of things are usually DO friendly as well. And so it is specialty dependent in terms of, if you were gunning for neurosurgery, I would maybe try to do MD just to set yourself up a little bit better. But, if you're, truly interested in anesthesia, the DO would be no problem.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so the next question I see is regarding mentee positions, how they'll be chosen. Can I actually throw this to Ruhi or Suhas, just in terms of how you guys will choose?
Yes, I can speak on it, and then Ruhi can add on to that. Ruhi can add on to that. So as far as we're going to have a Google form that we're going to open up, and y'all can apply for the Google form. And then Dr. Janacek will look at the form, look at the application, and then pick what he feels like a sizable amount, because he's trying to emphasize on getting people, but also you want to provide quality information. So we don't want to do too much. So we'll start with a small group, 5 to 10, I think. But then we'll add up if we see as it's needed. We'll have a Google form open that we'll advertise, and y'all can fill it out there. And then the rest of the team, y'all can add on to that.
Yeah, basically what he said, it'll kind of be dependent on what you're looking for regarding working with a mentor as well.
That's good.
All right, thanks guys. So the next question I see is, what do you suggest to stand out for an MD PhD? So this is one situation where research would come in more important. And so the MD PhD application is a little bit more intense. And it really looks for pre-med students who have had a significant research experience. And so part of that application is actually writing about what research you have done up until this point, and kind of how you foresee your research in the future. And so it does require a little bit more, thought. There's some extra essays involved in that application. And so if you do mark that you're interested in the MD PhD program, that's kind of the extra steps you have to take. Besides that, they are a little bit more selective about, grades and GPAs and MCAT scores and everything like that, because, it is a very rigorous program. And so, they want to see that you'll be able to handle it from the academic standpoint, and also that you've had the research experience to kind of know that you want to go into it. And so when I was on the application committee or the admissions committee, it was actually handled a little bit differently. So they would actually bring the candidates in for, an extra couple interviews with some of the PhDs at the institution. And so they made it just slightly more intense, but it's still doable. And so in that case, I would say research is more important. Just because those programs really look for someone who has that experience to base their decision on to apply to MD PhD. So does that help? Does that answer that question? I hope so. Okay. Moving on. Let's see, can someone still apply even if they don't have a lot of shadowing volunteering hours? When should someone reapply again for the next cycle if they didn't get in the first time they applied? So this is a common question. And so the first part, if you don't have a lot of shadowing volunteering hours, once again, if it's due to, COVID, that's one thing. If it's something that, you're busy with your undergrad studies and you couldn't find time to do it, that's another, and maybe doing a gap year to kind of increase those numbers would be better. If it's due to COVID, like I mentioned before, you can write about that and, in that extra essay, and then, try to do some of the virtual opportunities, maybe from home, and try to, boost your hours that way. And the question about when should someone reapply again for the next cycle, it depends on why you think you didn't get in the first time. So if it's an MCAT related issue, obviously retake the MCAT. And if that means studying for 6 months or 9 months this time, then obviously you're gonna have to wait a year and just do the MCAT studying, get your score back, and then apply the following year. If it's something that is quicker to fix, you can apply, just the next year. So I would say it's really a matter of what is the reason for not getting in, and what you can do. And I didn't know until I went through the process, was you can actually ask some of the medical schools that you didn't get into or don't get into, you can ask them why. So you can contact their admission staff. And you can ask them, can we meet, and can you just give me a brief explanation of what the, admissions committee didn't like. It's not 100% guaranteed that they'll tell you, but if you reach out to enough schools, someone will tell you, and usually it's the same answer across the board. And so you can kind of gauge, maybe it was my MCAT score, maybe it was my interview, Maybe it was my personal statement. So if it's, a personal statement issue or, an interview issue, those are relatively quick fixes. The personal statement you can fix. The interview skills, you can practice those. You can do mock interviews and be better prepared next time. If it's like I covered the MCAT question, if it's a GPA issue, you can, that's a little bit harder to fix quickly because at that point you've had so many credits that moving your GPA is not as easy as it once was. So even if you get a 4.0 the next semester, that may not, get you that much of a bump depending on what your GPA is to start with. So honestly, it's something that you kind of have to take, the reasons for you're not getting in and then figure out what you can do to fix those. So my answer to that would be, you can apply the next year, you can apply, take a gap year and then apply after that. But it's really about what is it that you need to fix. Let's see. Okay, pharmacy tech. Yeah, honestly, anything in medicine these days is fair game. And so you can, if you're a pharmacy tech, it still looks good, you're involved. And, you may have to explain, either in your personal statement or during your interviews, kind of why the pharmacy tech, jumped to medicine. But I will say that I actually had a classmate in medical school who was a, fully boarded pharmacist, and then he switched. And now he's an orthopedic surgery resident. So it is definitely possible to, switch fields within medicine. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. You find your calling, and, it's really something that, pharmacy isn't really what you want to do, and you figure that out. That's awesome. And, if you want to come to medicine, then, everyone has their reasons. And so some schools may ask you about it, kind of why the switch, but at the same time, you're still gaining experience. You still kind of learn, certain drugs that are used in certain conditions for certain patients. And so you can kind of explain that you've learned these things and you've picked up these things along the way. So it's not completely, a change of career or anything. It's more just, how you explain it. You can definitely get around those kind of activities. So let's see, work-life balance. Honestly, anesthesia is pretty good for work-life balance overall. Residency in general is, it's going to be hard whatever residency you do. My personal program, I would say I do about 55 to 60 hours a week in the hospital. Plus some calls outside of that where I'm at home. I know anesthesia programs that do up to 80 hours a week. So, it is kind of, dependent on where you end up for your residency. In terms of my projected future work-life balance, it's pretty good. Anesthesia starts early typically. So usually you have to be at the hospital at 6 or 7 a.m. But oftentimes, depending on where you're working, you could be done at 2, 3, 4 p.m. Sometimes if you're not on call. If you're on call, you'll probably stay later into the evening. But you can find the jobs that are very, work-life balance friendly. And, you're working maybe 8 to 10 hour days and then you go home. And maybe you're on call every once a week. Those are potential jobs that you can find out there. And so, it's really specialty dependent. I can't say the same thing for neurosurgery. They're always working. Same thing with, cardiac surgery is always working. So it's really, about your specialty and what residency you choose. Because, even different, like I mentioned, different anesthesia residencies have different work-life balances that, you kind of have to find out later when you're applying to residency. So let's see.
Can we just take a moment to say thank you that you're even answering any of these questions for everybody?
Oh, yes. No problem. This is honestly what I'm here for because I didn't have this when I was applying. To be honest, I had no one really to ask questions to. And so, any information I can give you guys that helps is, going to be hopefully beneficial. And, if it's just not helpful, please let me know and I'll try to make it
amazing. So we all appreciate you.
Thank you. I'll try to, my goal is to make it as beneficial to you guys as I can. And so, if you have things that, even after this meeting, you want to email me or, contact me on Instagram, whatever you want to do, just, reach out and I'll try to answer any questions you have. So the next one I see is what kind of extracurriculars are most recommended? So honestly, this goes down to the pre-med competencies. And so this is something that's come out in the last 4 or 5 years, I would say. It's once again from the AAMC. It's something that it's 15 categories. I don't remember all 15 off the top of my head, but I can link it to you guys. It's out on the web. But basically, it, shows altruism, compassion, empathy, hard work, discipline, responsibility are kind of the big ones. And so things that show that you're covering all those categories are, the most recommended. So volunteering is, honestly a pretty good one that covers a lot of categories. And so whether that's volunteering in the hospital, which is a little bit harder these days, volunteering at a, homeless shelter, a food bank, a church, whatever you, like to do, you can make those shine. So that's the biggest thing is, don't do some activity that you hate. So if you don't like doing those things, don't do it. There's something that you can do that you'll enjoy. And that'll shine through better than, saying, oh, I was at a food bank. But if you hated your time there, don't do that. Don't do it just for the application. So, volunteering is one of the big categories. Research is also a big category that's, typically recommended. Some sort of shadowing, which again, we've kind of covered. It's a little bit harder these days, but it's still doable. Leadership. Leadership looks great on your application. So, you don't have to start a new pre-med committee or pre-med scene, if you will. There's leadership opportunities abound. And so, whether that's, a fraternity leadership, sorority leadership, honor society leadership, a pre-med society leadership, basically anything that shows that you're taking the extra step to help out. Those are going to look great for an application. And then, anything unique. So if you come across a unique opportunity, whether that's here or abroad, sometimes, I've seen really good, unique opportunities where they got to take a trip to India, or for instance, and, help out at a local hospital there. There was a professor at my undergrad institution that would take a group of students to India every year. And they would volunteer for a week. It was typically during spring break from the university. And so I know a couple of people that did that and they loved it. And, it was a great opportunity. They got to see what another culture was like and another country's healthcare system was like. And so if you have any opportunities like that and you're able to do it financially, with time off, whatever it takes, those are kind of things that will set you apart. With that being said, you don't have to do those. You could be just fine, doing the things that, quote unquote, everyone does. And so, the research, the volunteering, the shadowing, and the leadership, those are kind of the big categories, I would say. And then what I said it boils down to what you enjoy. So if you don't enjoy research outside of the MD, PhD stuff, you don't have to do research. So, one thing I realized as an undergrad, I did a little research in a biochemistry lab where I was mixing cultures and, making bacterial colonies and, it was fun for the time, but looking back, if I ever had to do that again, I wouldn't want to. So, it's something that you learn, but at the same time, if you don't like it, it's not going to be helpful, to anyone. So let's see. Does someone have to be a science major or major in science? Okay, so this is kind of a double-headed question. So I'm going to tackle the first one quickly and then go on to the second one. So do you have to be a science major to be, to apply to medical school? The answer is a big no. So you can be an English major, you can be a communications major, you can be anything you want. All you have to do is take the pre-med coursework. And if you excel in the pre-med coursework, then, you'll be just fine. And so I saw plenty of, applications that had, music backgrounds, theater backgrounds, communications backgrounds. And so, those individuals definitely get into medical school. I had multiple classmates in medical school that were music and theater majors. And, it can set yourself apart because you're not the typical student, right? So you're not the biology major, you're not the science major. And so you bring a diversity to the class. And, medical schools are very interested in diversity in terms of, they want diversity of the individual, and they want diversity of experience. And so being able to bring that diversity is actually really important, and, it could actually help you. So I wouldn't, if you really love music or theater or anything you want, as long as you take the pre-med coursework, so the biology courses, the chemistry courses, organic chemistry and physics, and the sociology and psychology, you'll be just fine. In terms of what areas to focus on when writing a personal statement, so that's a pretty broad answer as well. The things to focus on during a personal statement are, it's kind of the unwritten question, why medicine? So really, when you're sitting down to write your personal statement, what you want to focus on is why are you about to go into this, long journey of becoming a doctor? And, everyone has their different reasons, whether that's personal, maybe you had a family member go through something, maybe you went through a medical experience that, you were sick as a child, something like that. But, we really just want to know, like, what drew you to medicine, and why are you choosing to, kind of go through the painful, tedious path to become a physician. You can do that in a variety of ways in terms of, you can tell a story, you can highlight things, along the way that you've been through. You kind of just try to paint a picture of why you're going into medicine. That's the most important thing to kind of highlight. Let's see. Can you name some work-life friendly programs? I guess, do you mean residency programs, or? I guess I'll just take it from a resident. So work-life friendly, like, specialties. So family medicine is usually pretty work-life friendly. Dermatology is pretty friendly in terms of work-life balance. Radiology is typically work-life balance friendly. Anesthesia it depends on the program, but most of them are pretty work-life balance friendly. Let's see, pediatrics can be. There's some tough pediatrics programs, but other than that, a lot of them are very friendly towards, having a family and work-life balance, everything like that. I hope that answers that question. If not, I can come back to that as well. Let's see, how do I make my personal statement stand out? Let's see. Honestly, just be yourself. It sounds cliche and it sounds simple, but that's going to make it, the point of the personal statement is to be personal. So, they don't, when I was reading, applications on the committee, it really was, it got to be monotonous at times. And so one that really stood out was something that was personal, whether that person, went through some, maybe they broke their leg playing football as a high schooler, and, their orthopedic surgeon was, amazing. Or, maybe their family got sick while they were, growing up, and they met an amazing doctor. But something that's personal, and, like I said, tells a story. Those are I personally believe those are the best statements. The ones that tell a story, keep the reader engaged, and keep them, trying to keep reading. Those are the most important ones, because, when they're reading hundreds of applications a year, the ones that stood out are the ones that, were very personal, not just, they got good grades or they were exceptional at academics. It was really the ones that were, the ones that were personal. So let's see, next question. Do you think it's helpful to be on multiple exec boards? Is it better to be treasurer of a bunch of clubs instead of president of one? So I've gotten this question a lot, actually. And so, it's however you can make the biggest impact. And so usually what I tell pre-meds is if you think spreading yourself too thin on multiple exec boards is going to diminish your ability to do well in each of those, then it's more important to focus on one. And so for most of us, focusing on one thing is going to be the best because you can really give all your attention to it and really make an impact. And that will show when you're talking about it during an interview. So if you're the president of one executive board and you can really talk about, hey, this is what I have done and this is how I help that organization, that's going to be more important than being treasurer of 4 different exec boards. And so, I would vote for the one that has the president of one because, they're going to be able to focus all of that attention on one organization and really make changes and really be able to focus instead of just kind of piling on the different exec boards, but not really having, as much ability to do, a lot of great work for each. So, so what major other than pre-med best towards anesthesia? So I may be biased, but physiology or exercise science, depending on what your school, I know schools name them different things. So mine was actually called integrated physiology. That was my major. I've heard exercise science, kinesiology. I'm trying to think of the other ones, anatomy and physiology, to name a few. Because, everything that I do on a daily basis is basically, physiology driven. And so, I need to know physiology, the receptors that, certain drugs act upon. And that's my day-to-day life. And so, if I gave a patient the wrong medicine and affected the wrong receptor, it's not going to, it's not going to give me what the intended effect, but it's also, could hurt the patient. So, it boils down to the physiology of everything. And so, I think if you're interested in anesthesia, definitely, a physiology-based major would be really helpful because you can dive into, every single organ system and, you'll learn the basics because that's what we have to learn in anesthesia or relearn is, every single organ system, most of the drugs we give have a side effect. Even if we don't intend them to. And so we kind of have to know each system and know how each drug is going to affect that system. So, if you do that as an undergrad, you're going to relearn it as a med student because they always cover physiology in your preclinical years. If you have a head start on that, then you'll be one step, ahead of the game. So, let's see, what does it look like to an admissions committee when they see someone has taken a class multiple times? So it depends on the number of times. So if you take it twice, it's probably not a big deal. If you take it more than twice, that would probably raise some red flags, to be honest. And so, we all have, we don't know the circumstances that led to the first bad grade. So if you have a bad grade and you had to retake a class, it's life, right? We're all humans, we're not perfect. But, hopefully you would learn the second time and be able to do a little bit better. But if you have to take it a third time, it would probably raise a few red flags for us just in terms of, was it, circumstances that led you to that? Was it, you just didn't understand the material? I think 2 times would be acceptable. And it says here in the question, genetics, that's a tough class anyway. I think my answer still holds. If it's more than 2 times, it'd be a little bit more of a red flag than just if it's twice, then that's, less of an issue. As long as you increased your grade the second time, then that shows us that you learned the material, you made corrections, and you adapted, which is great. So, let's see. All right. So I think this is a follow-up from earlier questions about the anesthesia programs. So in terms of good work-life balance for anesthesia programs. So my program, I'm at University of Illinois, Chicago. So I would say that's a pretty good work-life balance program. Like I said, we work maybe 55 to 60 hours a week. There's some other programs in the city of Chicago, such as Loyola and Northwestern, that work a little bit more. So they work, maybe 75 to 80 hours a week on average. Across the country, I think the East Coast seems to be a little bit more higher on the hours. There's some, Boston programs, some New York programs that tend to work closer to that 80-hour work week limit. But other than that, it's really kind of case by case, program by program. And that's something you can, find on the forums online in terms of, which programs are a little bit, more hour heavy than others. So let's see. Let's see. So Suhas, I just saw your message. I think there's just one more question. So I can
take your time as much as you feel comfortable. We want to make sure you have a breather and everything to as much as you're comfortable with.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think there's just this one last question. I can answer that if that's okay with all of you guys.
Go for it.
So it says, do you think it makes sense to retake a class with a B for a non-science class like pre-calc or something to take a higher level? For a B, I wouldn't I wouldn't retake that. I think, a B, isn't the end of the world, honestly. It's something that, is for pre-calc even, I wouldn't retake that. I would just do better on another science course, and that's going to raise your GPA equivalently. And you're not going to be worried about the having to retake it and all of that, stress. So hope that answers that question. What is it like biology or chemistry where someone gets a C? So if it's a biology or chemistry course, if they got a C, that would be a situation where I would probably retake. Just because, it's the difference between a science and a non-science course. And, they're going to look at your science GPA. So when you apply to medical school, they split all of your grades into science and non-science. And so biology and chemistry obviously fall in the science category. Everything else that's not biology, chemistry, physics, or, physiology, anatomy, those sorts of things will fall into the non-science GPA. And so you're going, sorry, my dog just joined me. If it's something for the science, in the science GPA, I would maybe retake it because, that's going to affect your science GPA. And some schools do look at your science GPA almost more than your non-science GPA. Sorry, my dog wants to say hello. Hi, buddy. Aw, good girl. So yeah, if it's a science class, I would say retake if you got a C. Hopefully that helps.
Does anyone have any more questions?
I think that's all the questions. If anyone has any more, you can unmute and speak up. I think that's all the questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Janacek, for joining us. Of course. That was a lot of questions. We got a lot of them. Thank you for providing all the feedback. I think a lot of people want to reach out to you so you can tell them what's your best way to contact.
Yeah, definitely. And then I will add for everyone that's still on, I will do an anesthesia related discussion at a later date. Where I'll actually focus on anesthesia. I'll tell you about like, you know, everything that basically brought me to this point, what to expect in residency for anesthesia, you know, what goes through the, you know, I'm hoping to put together like a case discussion so I can kind of show you what I would think about if, you know, a certain patient comes in and, you know, kind of give you an idea of what an anesthesiologist thinks about, which I think may help, you know, some of you kind of feel, you know, or understand what the specialty is about a little bit. And so, you know, hopefully, you know, if it's not in September, maybe October, or sometime this semester, we can definitely put something together. And I would love to go through, you know, more about anesthesia because I could talk about that forever. So, you know, we'll set that up and send out you know, obviously send out a notification to all you guys, when that will be. And, you know, that will be definitely anesthesia heavy. So, I'll put in the chat box the best way to contact me. So if you have questions, please just reach out. And I will get back to you, you know, obviously as soon as I can. And so, you know, I'll put it in the chat right now. All right, there it is. Oh, sorry. I sent it to Suhas. Sorry.
Yes.
I will send it to everyone.
Yeah. And then we will also advertise your message on our platforms. So the people that didn't make it to the meeting and such will have access to your email and contact.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great.
Thank you for speaking with us, Dr. Janacek.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to everyone that came to our meeting today and that stayed to the end. And thank you, Dr. Janiczek, so much for answering every question so thoroughly and without any hesitation. I think that you helped a lot of people out, and we're looking forward to having you.
That's what I'm here for. So, like I said, if you guys have any questions, just reach out. No question's a stupid question. So.
Thank you so much, everyone. You guys have been amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, guys. And
thank you. Thank you all for coming. It was nice having y'all too.
And this recording will be posted on our website, thepremedscene.com, just in case you want to go back and listen to anything Dr. J said, or if you want to share it with your friends, it'll be there.
All right. Thank you, everyone. If that's any messages from the team.
Yeah. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do we have a Google form to send out? Like the group?
I haven't made one, but I can just make it really quick right now, and then so it's just a Google form to get like feedback, right?
Feedback.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll make it right now, and then I'll send it out to you guys to review and then to group me.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys. This was really good. I think we had a great turnout with all the questions and everything. It was amazing.